Greetings and welcome to On the Table. We're broadcasting on RTM Click and MyTV's Berita RTM channel 123, which is also live streaming on YouTube. I'm your host, Mohana Priya. On tonight's episode, we are diving into a crucial yet sometimes overlooked topic, psychosocial risk assessment and management. Now, the Department of Occupational Safety and Health recently launched the Guidelines on Psychosocial Risk Assessment and Management in the Workplace 2024. In the studio today is Dr. Rajinderjit Singh Hallan, Deputy Director of the Occupational Health Division from the Department of Occupational Safety and Health. Thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting us. Salam Sejahtera and Salam Malaysia Madani. First of all, I would like to thank RTM for inviting us on the show today, on the table, for showcasing our guidelines, which was on guidelines on psychosocial risk assessment and management at the workplace 2024, which was recently launched on 26th of October.
Doctor, before we move on to the objectives of the guideline, perhaps you could help elaborate on what the definition of psychosocial risk is and why is it important?
Psychosocial risk is basically a combination of the likelihood of exposure, of occurrence of the workplace exposure related to psychosocial things that happen psychosocially in the workplace and the severity of the disease at the workplace. So it's a combination of the likelihood of it occurring with the effects of it on the health component of it. So that's how we define it. And a couple of examples would be like workload. You know, sometimes workload is too much, or even sometimes the work is monotonous. You know, you keep doing the same job again and again and again. There's no change in the job. That can even cause stressful conditions. Of course, let's not forget about things like when you're overworked, when you do not have time for your family, you do not have time to any leisure activities. Those are kind of the risk factors that we consider under psychosocial risk. Last but not least, something which is very subdued, where we don't see bullying, harassment, those kind of things also take into part of
bullying and harassment in the workplace. In
the workplace, all of this that happens at the workplace. So this is the things which is psychosocial risk is all about. So
why is it important that we look at this? What is the implications of, let's say, ignoring this aspect of stress in a worker's life? I understand that it's not just the individual being affected, it's a productivity issue, isn't it?
Yes. So when this is stress is a good thing, all right, but when stress is the one that actually gives us something to push forward, it makes our life non-mundane. We progress. But what happens is when our coping mechanism fails, then it becomes toxic. Firstly, it becomes toxic to ourselves. And when the toxicity rises in ourselves, we tend to spew out that toxic. And that effect will be seen within your workers, your co-workers, your family. That toxicity is the one that we want to prevent. That is why with these guidelines, we want to detect it at an earlier stage. But our guidelines are looking more towards the effects of work. We do agree that there are other factors. You have personal factors, you have environmental factors, and you have workplace factors. The department started embarking on these guidelines when we realized during the COVID-19 pandemic, we realized there was a rise in cases. And on the initiative of the department, we reached out to UITM as a consultant to develop, to research and to develop a guideline for us. And this started in 2021. So it was a journey that we had from 2021 until 2024, where we launched
finally launching the guidebook. I do have a question about this, though. The key objectives of this, the Psychosocial Risk Assessment and Management in the Workplace 2024. What are you hoping to achieve out of launching this guidebook?
Okay. I'll give some background on statistics. If we look into the recently National Health Mobility Survey, 2023, there was about 4.6% of Malaysians above, about 1 million Malaysians above the age of 16 seem to have depression, and this statistics came from the Ministry of Health.
Okay.
At the same time, when we looked at our statistics in the department, which was, again, our national statistics, which was recently launched by our Minister of Human Resource, it showed that our number one case was our number one case is occupational noise-induced hearing loss, which we received about 6,000
occupational
noise-induced
noise-induced
hearing loss.
Hearing loss, which had nothing to do with mental health or stresses, nothing.
Nothing.
Okay.
6,000 cases, 6,700.
Okay.
Would you be surprised to know that our occupational psychosocial illness, we only received 3 cases for the whole year.
For a whole year, in the whole country?
In the whole country.
So does this mean it's being underreported?
We believe so.
Okay.
And when we compared this with UK and Australia, in UK for the year 2023, there was about 875,000 cases.
Okay.
Resulting at about 17.1 million lost working days. And in Australia, there was about, when they compared comparatively, between 2018 to 2022, compensation payment for mental health issues at the workplace came up to about 54 million Australian dollars.
Wow.
And that is why the department realized there is a mismatch.
Correct.
Mismatch on what is happening on the ground and what is actually being reported to us.
Right.
So to your question is that
why? Yes,
so that is one. One reason is we realize that even though now, yes, people are talking about mental health, but the awareness, the stigma in our society
is still there.
Yes. Many people would say it, but they will not come outright to make a report about it.
Yeah.
Because once there is no report done, the department, we cannot take any corrective action. That was one. So one is, this guideline is to promote awareness on mental health.
Yeah.
And the second thing is that another issue that we realized, the relatedness. How do we relate from someone having an issue at the workplace to relate it back to the work?
Yeah.
Where is the cause of it? So our focus on this guideline is solely workplace. So there are 3 contents that we look at. One is job content, one is jobs and job support, and job design. So that is the objective.
That brings you, okay,
Oh, yeah.
so the objectives bring you to
one is the awareness. Second thing is to get the work-relatedness.
Right.
Basically, we want to assist the employers to find out at their workplace.
And how do you do that? What are the methodologies that are recommended for conducting this risk assessment?
Okay, for all purposes, in this case, we have 3 stages.
Okay.
Number 1, the stage 1 is to identify the hazard. Stage 2 is to, stage 2 is to risk control, control the hazard identification, risk control, and risk management. So the stage 1 is during this, utilizing these guidelines, we will identify the hazards by doing a Leo 26. It's a questionnaire that we have.
Okay.
Where it's only 26 questions, where every employee at the workplace needs to identify all the questions.
Okay.
Answer all the questions. Yeah. And collectively, Stage 2 will be collecting all the questionnaires from all the workers and letting the workers, the employers analyze it. So the good thing about this questionnaire is no name was there.
It's anonymous.
Anonymous. So the only thing that we have is the questions and which department you are at and how old you are.
Okay.
And either male or female.
Okay.
So just to identify, so that the employer does not know who is the one having an issue.
Okay.
And from then, once it's analyzed, stage 2, there's employers will actually then undergo this, will also need to answer questions on what have they done at the workplace. So that's a form EPC 23 questions where the employer needs to answer and see, and they'll match. There'll be a matching between the Leo 26 and EPC 23, and from there, the report will be generated.
Okay. Now, Doctor, these measurement instruments,
Yes.
I understand, have been using the ILO standards. Is that correct? The International Labour Organization. What is the link? Where did the measurement tools come from?
We actually that's where the role of UITM came in.
Okay.
So they did a research utilizing the tools. They had validated this tool using international standard JCQ standard, and they validated. And because once it's validated, so we know that with this tool, the results can be. How do you say, the authenticity of the results?
Yes, which is very important because it needs to apply to our community as well.
Correct. So, and it was done by UITM in our community.
Okay.
And the time taken by UITM, because to validate, to come up with the one, it took some time, and we are happy with what they have helped us produce.
Okay. Now, Doctor, I'm just curious, is this risk assessment and management, is it mandated by law in Malaysia?
Okay. Risk assessment is mandated by law under Section 18.
Okay.
Any workplace that has that carries out any activities must conduct a risk assessment. Okay. This is stated in our recently OSHA 1994, Occupational Safety and Health Act 1994, under Section 18B, where the Act stipulates that every employer, self-employed person or principal shall carry out risk assessment in relation to safety and health risk posed to any person who may be affected by their undertaking at the workplace. If the risk assessment indicates that risk control is required to eliminate or to reduce the safety and health risk, the employer, self-employed person or principal shall implement such controls.
Okay. So are these guidelines then applicable to all sectors? Is it just the government sector, the public sector, or is it public and private?
Okay. OSHA 1994, because the applicability of these guidelines falls under OSHA. So OSHA, every workplace in the country must utilize this. I must conduct risk assessment. Okay. Except for domestic workers, maids, the armed forces, and workers under the shipping line. I see. Maritime industry.
Why is that?
They have their own regulation.
They have their
own regulation.
Oh, that's
so anything under OSHA, all workplaces over the country needs to abide by it.
Doctor, we do have many questions coming right after this, but we will take a quick break and I'll come back to you on how the department provides assistance to organizations in implementing the newly launched guidelines. We'll be right back in a bit.
Thank you.
And we'll be back in a short while, right after these messages. Stay with us.
2025 will be a momentous chapter for ASEAN, rich with significance and promise. We'll mark the 10th anniversary of the ASEAN community founding, a milestone in our collective journey. Malaysia has chosen the theme inclusivity and sustainability. It reflects our aspirations for shared progress, ensuring that no one is left behind. It conveys our hope that the steps we take today will endure in the long run. It underscores our determination to keep the future firmly in sight as we move forward. On behalf of the government and people of Malaysia, I look forward to welcoming you all. Selamat datang ke Malaysia. Thank you.
Welcome back. We're speaking to Dr. Rajinderjit Singh Hallan, the Deputy Director from the Department of Occupational Safety and Health, on the recently launched guidelines on psychosocial risk assessment and management at the workplace 2024. Now, Doctor, I do want to ask you about what kind of training and resources does the department provide to assist organizations in implementing the recently launched guidelines?
Okay. Like I said earlier, the guidelines on psychosocial risk assessment was recently launched by Dato' Azman, Dato' Azman bin Muhammad Yusof, the Secretary General of the Ministry of Human Resource, October 26. And during that time, we had event for running for 2 days.
Okay.
And during the event, we had about 2,000 visitors. We had exhibitions on health aspects. We had it was a webinar, and also we had workshops going on during that time. And it lasted for 2 days. And moving forward, our plan next year is that we'll have a road show around the country. We have identified about 6 states that we are going to go to introduce these guidelines to the industries at those respective states. And the thing about this guideline is that there is a component that this assessment must be done by a psychosocial trained person.
Okay.
All right. This psychosocial trained person is a person who is employed by the employer. So a workplace doesn't need to get someone from outside. What we want is that employer to train their own current staff, send their staff for training to become this psychosocial trained person, and this person will be able to conduct the assessment of his own colleagues at the workplace.
Okay. Would this be somebody from the HR department, or does it matter?
It doesn't. It can be a safety health officer. It can be an from the HR department. It can even be an OSH coordinator.
Okay.
As long as the person has undergone the training, and this training must be from a place which is certified by the Director General of the Department of Occupational Safety and Health.
Okay.
So because
so the department conducts the trainings as well?
No, the department doesn't.
Oh, doesn't?
The department just certifies centers that can conduct the training.
I see.
And employers must go to that center to be, for their workers to be known as a psychosocial trained person.
How long are we talking about here?
A day, 2, maybe maximum 2.
Okay.
Maximum 2. So far, what we've been talking to the centers that make it short, make it brief. The idea is there's 2 aspects. One is the risk assessment.
Okay.
And the other one is risk management.
Okay.
So the risk assessment, it's already
the tool is already there. Okay.
Now risk management is where the issue is, because different workplaces have different issues. Different workplaces have different scenarios. And that is where the PTP comes into a role. He needs to know what's it about at the workplace. Only then he can help to solve the issues. Yes, in the guidelines we have given advices on what to do and how to do it, but it also needs to suit that workplace.
Correct.
And
that's why it's important that it's an internal person, somebody from within the system.
Yes, if you get someone from you can get someone from outside, but it's better someone done internally, and for employers, cost has been reduced. It's always
a factor, isn't it?
That's why the department emphasizes on someone inside the workplace to be trained to do this.
Okay, now Doctor, how will the compliance with these guidelines be monitored and enforced by the department?
Okay, like I said, Section 18 is mandatory. So on a regularly, DOSH officers, we do audit workplaces.
Okay.
All right, and when we go to workplace, this would be one of the things that they'll be looking upon to see that that is all this risk assessment at the workplace done. Because if it's not done, industries can be fined up to 500,000. This is under the new OSHA Act. 500,000 ringgit is the penalty for not complying to the law. That's one. And then the second thing is that the Director General, as a department, sometimes we receive complaints. And when we do receive complaints, the Director General can instruct any industry to conduct the risk assessment. And so that's another way that we'll follow on to the compliance of the guidelines.
Okay. Now, Doctor, are there any case studies or examples that where similar guidelines have been used and have been successful in other countries?
Okay. The ones that come to my mind are 2.
Okay.
Japan and Singapore. All right. In Japan, it is mandated by law that every worker in the country needs to undergo, during their annual health checkup, they must do a mental health assessment. And that's because in Japan, there have been cases of suicide was increasing during that time.
I believe the numbers are above average.
Above, yes, very above. And because of that, it's mandated by law. Well, in Singapore, our neighbor, they have also developed a tool, and this tool is more of, it's an online-based tool where they develop for companies to decide to either, it's on a voluntary basis, either to use or not to use. So that depends on the company. In Malaysia, we took the best of both. On one side, we mandated that risk assessment must be done.
Right.
And now we are assisting the industries in providing them with the tool.
Right.
We are not strict on saying that you must use this. What we are saying is the risk assessment must be done.
Yeah.
You can decide to use this tool, or if you want to use a different tool, go ahead. But make sure that the tool is well recognized, well researched, and it does have some validity of using it. And then, please, go ahead. So so one side we are saying risk must be done, but on the other hand, we let you, okay, you want to choose what, you can decide what you want, which tool you want to use.
Okay. So the success of Japan and Singapore, these are all inspiration for Malaysia as well.
Yes.
And we've got the best of both worlds, so I'm happy to hear that. So we'll see how it progresses after this. Now, Doctor, what feedback mechanisms are in place? So let's say organizations are now implementing the risk assessment guidelines and you're using these tools. How do they come back to the department on reporting their experiences in implementing these guidelines at work?
Okay. Under our headquarters and also our state offices, we have regular meeting with our stakeholders. And our stakeholders comprise of Employers Federation, Employees Federation, occupational health practitioners, from people from the universities. So we have regular meetings with them. And we expect that if there's any drawback from the guidelines or policies where implementation, where if they find it difficult or if there's good to it, they'll inform us during this meeting, and we'll take this feedback back and work on it if anything that we need to improve. That's on the, I would say, on the upper level. On the personal level, any employee in Malaysia can send us a report. We have on our website, our PROs, they will respond to any comments about the guidelines. They can upload it over the website, and usually it will be transferred back to our division, occupational health division, for review and to see if there's any feasibility that we'll need to do something better.
And these are anonymous?
Anonymous.
I think that's very important, because when people think about reporting their grievances at work, there's always that concern that, oh, I'll be found out and, I'm not going to be given a promotion, or they're going to think something's wrong with me.
Okay, when we get reports on these cases, we keep it anonymous.
Yeah.
When we go and investigate, we do not pinpoint to a single person, because these guidelines is more to decide. It is not a tool to decide if an individual has an illness. It is to look at the whole workplace. We are looking if the workplace is sick, not an individual who is unwell. Even though the guideline can say during the assessments, we can detect someone who is, sometimes you can see someone who is mentally unwell, but we also know that it's not related to work. Then we have to go back to those two factors. Is it personal?
I did have a question about that, because we want to make sure that you're not working in a silo here, right?
Yes.
Because someone could have mental issues that stem from outside the workplace, which could be a personal thing, a family, or other stresses in their life.
So one good thing about this, we have ruled out it's not from the work.
Correct.
So the PTPs, the psychosocial trained person's duty will also be then to refer him for help towards the nearest Ministry of, Clinic Kesihatan, or to the nearest hospital, that he knows that maybe it's coming from outside, maybe he requires a professional assistant, be sent to a psychiatrist for assessment, so we can detect it at an early stage. Again, we don't want that toxic brewing inside that until it affects the person and the people surrounding him.
Yeah. Now, Doctor, I'd like to circle back to the guidelines. I noticed that the guidelines stresses a lot on record keeping. It's one major component there. Why is record keeping important? Can you tell us?
Okay, record keeping is important because sometimes we do not see things at this stage. Some of it is built up. Maybe in the earlier stages of the assessment, it would have been mild or moderate.
Okay.
But following year, we can see if it had become severe. So we can trace back the records and we can see what was the factors. Again, the factors that we are looking at is job control, job content, job support. So we want to see, was there previously the job content was good. I mean, job content was high, but job support was good.
Okay.
So there was support. Even though he was doing a lot of work, he had no time, but the support from his colleagues was good.
Okay.
But the following year, maybe his job support had dropped. So we want to see where the imbalance was so that the companies can advise themselves to which sector that they can improve.
But doctor, things change very fast within a year in an organization. So your colleagues might have changed, staff turnover and things like that. So how do you keep track of things like that? And how do you account for those changes when you're doing this risk assessment?
Since this is an overall scenario, and it's not individually based, we'll look at it as that once the environment and the workplace is good, irregardless who works in that workplace, it will turn out to be beneficial for them. And if the workplace environment is nice, really good, you will not have much staff turnover.
Okay, so that stability is really important,
stability,
isn't it?
Yes.
What about leadership? How does leadership come into play? Leadership at the workplace?
The leadership, he has to, number one, once an employee complains of a burnout or having issues, work-related issues, psychosocial work-related issues, as a leader, the first step is he has to decide, please, conduct this assessment.
Okay.
To believe that, to rule out, is the problem stemming from my workplace? Because evidently it will affect the company's productivity.
That's right. So that means also that the risk assessment or the tool doesn't have to be used at a certain time in a year. It can be
anytime.
Anytime.
Anytime. There are two methods. One, we have a proactive method where you do it on a regular basis.
Okay.
And one is a reactive. So when there's a case, when someone reports, your employee reports to you, take the guideline and assess the whole unit or the whole department, because it's tailor-made to that aspect. It's by unit. You can do it by unit, you can do it by department, or you can do it by the whole organization.
Okay. Doctor, thank you so much for your insights today. That was a very fruitful and insightful discussion. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you. And that's about all the time we've got for On the Table this evening. We've been speaking to Dr. Rajinderjit Singh Hallan, Deputy Director of the Occupational Health Division from the Department of Occupational Safety and Health. A repeat of this episode's broadcast can be viewed again at the same time tomorrow and subsequent days on both RTM Click and MyTV's Berita RTM channel, which is also live streaming on YouTube. Till next Thursday, where we'll discuss another topic of interest. I'm Mohanapriya, signing off. Good night.